Hello, my original patrons who will be the only ones seeing this video after today, but I may still consider sharing this with the public for one last time. But we're going to finish up the second half of the UFC event, which I don't know who's going to be filling in. So I'm just going to say the Dos Santos card because we just lost Islam due to some health complications. I'm not too sure exactly what type, but and hopefully we wish him a speedy recovery and he comes back stronger than ever and we can see this fight rebooked again in the near future. But as of right now, it's going to be Dos Santos versus, I'm hoping my opinion, I don't want to get my hopes up. I was hoping they can put like a Tyson Chandler inside the mix right now because he was on standby for the fight with Khabib and Gaethje, which just made no sense to me why they would make him as a standby, which is why I'm not expecting him to fill in now because in my opinion, with the testing USADA pull, that they have to have him in there for at least 6 months being clean, testing clean and negative on all those things and coming out of Bellator and the way he's been looking, I doubt at his age especially, he's clean. So I don't see this as a possibility, but I'll stay optimistic in the meantime. We'll see what they have to say about that. But I think they're just using him as a selling marketing thing for future and to keep people entertained and not be worried about if people fall out of the cards. That not to, because some people, they wouldn't buy the pay-per-view until last minute and they would assume that maybe there could be something that would, why would I spend my money on a pay-per-view now and then find out later that Khabib fell off or Gaethje fell off the card and then I already spent my money. So they would say something as a marketing tool, like, yeah, we got a standby guy ready, you'll put him on the scales. But in all reality, they know he dropped dirty and he would fail the drug test because they just negotiated his contract to take him from Bellator, where Bellator, they don't have USADA testing pools, and 99% of those guys are going to be testing dirty. So I don't expect to see Chandler in the mix for any time soon, at least 6 months after they signed him. So anyways, we'll see who they could put in the mix. We're going to give you the second half. Just to recap who I gave you in the first video, we went with Abdul Razak Al Hassan. The guy's all 10 of his fight wins are by knockout. He's a beast. This guy's built like a tank, man. Nobody can take hits from this guy. And somebody who's as game of an opponent and a fearsome striker like Chaos Williams is, he's going to be willing to trade in the pocket. He's going to fall right into the trap of so many. Mozy guy, the Arab from Bellator that put up a fight. I mean, in UFC that gave him a run. It came from Bellator. He thought he could exchange with this guy, and look what happened to everybody before him who had that mentality. And that's the thing with fighters, and I want you to remember this because I'm going to mention this about one of the underdogs we're going to go with on this card coming up next week, who a lot of people will not be high on. They're probably going to say they have bad IQ, but it's not the way. I mean, me as a fighter, I know why she made these mistakes, and as a fan, even a hardcore fan, you may think that she is someone who doesn't show good IQ, but like we'll just speak about her now. Ronda Marcos, her last win, she's coming in as a pretty good underdog this week against a girl who's never even been in the UFC and had any wins in the UFC yet. And we're talking about a Marcos who's fought against the best of the best and has beat some of the best, the Hills and the Mackenzie Derns and Cookie Monster. These are girls who have held belts in the division in the UFC, and she's an underdog against a girl who's never even fought anybody in the UFC. So I don't agree with that. I think she should be the favorite. Don't get me wrong, her opponent's a very good prospect who I do see maybe being somewhere eventually down the road into top 15, top 10s, maybe depending on the level of competition in that division at that point when she gets there. But Marcos is one of my picks for an underdog I'm going to go with. And the reason she lost her last fight against Mackenzie Dern is, number one, Mackenzie Dern is the Horse Gracie of, not to mention she does train the Gracie style of submission. She's the best submission artist in the women's history, probably. She'll go down as the best that ever did submission. She's been doing submission since she was in diapers, and the level of, and Mackenzie Dern was getting beat up on the feet. The reason why she submitted her from her back, so she was losing the fight to Ronda Marcos. And may I add, she was losing the fight to Ronda Marcos, who was so confident because Marcos is such a good grappler, good wrestler, has her own good submission game, that when she saw it, and just by natural, when you're in a fight, you have to, a lot of your fight is going to be, unless you're sitting there with your ears glued, and most of these fighters they're used to having fights with a big crowd where they can't hear their trainers screaming out even at the top of their lungs. They wouldn't be able to hear their trainers. So a lot of what they're going into these fights with is just natural fighting instincts. And so when she sees somebody on the ground on their back, like the Santos situation, Santos saw a guy who was on his back almost ready to check out. His lights were checked out, and he went and he followed a guy who's way better submission guy on the ground than he is, and he went for the kill and paid for it. But it's just natural that even people with much experience and good IQ, because she does show good IQ. If you watch the majority of her decisions in her fights, she's shown very good IQ, but she went down to the ground on a fallen opponent that she thought she would be able to punish for some ground and pound, and maybe even put her out with TKOs on the ground, or even a submission if it opened up. But that's just her confidence. Sometimes your confidence could be your worst enemy, you know. But can't falter there. How many others have fallen to Mackenzie Dern in the submission grappling game? But at least they did it. She did it while she was winning the fight, not losing the fight to her. So I mean, that's something that at least you could be a little bit more proud about. All right. Anyways, so we went with the tenon. We went with the first video, Abdul Razak Al Hassan to beat Chaos Williams. The other fights I gave was Daniel Rodriguez. But that fight has been canceled from what I've heard. That his opponent Barberena went into some surgery, last minute surgery, and he's injured now or not capable of filling in. So they're looking for a replacement for that one as well. That fight as well. I gave you guys Tony Gravely versus Geraldo de Freitas Jr. We went with Tony Gravely. I said it's a guy you guys want to look out for. Very impressive wins from what I've studied, the tapes that I've studied on him. He's the guy who you guys definitely can put some money on and be confident in winning. Another one I think I gave you guys was the main event, which also got canceled. Like I said, they're looking for a replacement for Islam. So now we're going to continue on. I'm going to go with the next fight will be, let's go with, I guess we'll start off with, who's here? Oh yeah, I also gave you Julian Marquez versus Safarov. I went with Julian Marquez as a very confident pick of mine. Guy's beat some world beaters, and he's looked impressive doing it, even though he's coming off a bit of a layoff. I don't expect things to be too much different than when we last seen him. He may even be looking more new and improved. So, and he's fighting a guy who's got 1 win out of 4 wins in the UFC. He's lost 3, and he's got put away in all 3 of those losses. He didn't even lose by decision. They either submitted him or knocked him out. He's only got 1 win in the UFC, and it was against somebody who has no wins in the UFC. So nothing to be proud about either or brag about. So I'm going with Marquez on that fight. Now let's start off with actually another underdog I wanted to give you guys. A very promising fighter. I like him a lot. I don't even understand why he's an underdog. His opponent's last, let's see. His opponent Anders has lost 4 out of his last 6 fights, and 1 of those wins, so he's only won 2 out of 6. 1 of those wins was a split decision that one judge said he didn't even win. So it could be a 5 out of 6. He's lost 5 out of his last 6, and he hasn't won any impressive. His most recent ones are not. It looks like he's on the decline. He's going to be the older, slower guy. Antonio Arario's Brazilian, 6 feet tall, 185 pounds coming in that night, and he'll be probably closer to 200 on fight night. His only loss recently, before that he was on a very long, nice, impressive win streak, dominating people. His only loss was against Andre Munoz. I don't know if you guys know anything about Munoz, but Munoz is a world beater. This guy's huge, he's strong, he's in good shape. His submission game is deadly. This guy's going to be, and right now, the way I'm seeing him come into himself and coming into his own, he's not going to be able to get put away by anybody who's not like top 3, not even top 5. I wouldn't imagine. This guy, he came in his last fight like a plus 200 underdog. Took out what's his name? Somebody who actually had money on Munoz on that day because he was a big underdog. I didn't understand why. I did a lot of research on this guy. I knew he was not only going to beat. How do you say that guy's name? Where did it go? Where did it go? Bartosz Fabinski, who I was also high on. I mean, that guy's impressed me a lot in his fights, Bartosz, but He's a very good wrestler, a very good striker. He's got good defense, good. He doesn't stop. He's got good output. And I knew that because of the style matchup, this guy doesn't, he likes to wrestle. He likes to keep people with ground and pound on the ground. And you go to the ground with a guy like Munoz, and you're paying me plus 300 money, plus 280, something like that. He was an underdog. I cashed in pretty nicely for that ticket. So Munoz is a killer, man. I mean, that guy, if he can put away these type of people, there's no shame in losing to him. And that's the only guy who's beaten Antonio since 2017. That guy's a killer in his own right. So my money is on the underdog in this fight. I see Antonio Arroyo, 9-3 record, pulling away with the victory. I can even see it by finish, but definitely, if not, a unanimous decision. All right, next fight we're going to go with, I already gave you Ronda Marcos as one of my under. She's a purple belt, and BJ, she's also going to have a chip on her shoulder. She came off of a loss on a fight that she was supposed to be winning, and a lot of people criticize her for her IQ now. She's worked so hard in her career, doing well, and was so accomplished. Now that all that was kind of like, people, they see, you know, this world nowadays, it's what have you done for me lately, and she's got a bitter taste now in her mouth because of what happened to her lately. So I think she's gonna have a point to prove in this fight, and this new green girl who's never fought in a UFC before who's, by the way, going to be the much smaller, shorter, has a size advantage, reach disadvantage against Marcos. Doesn't have as much output as Marcos. She's maybe a slightly better wrestler, but Marcos can handle herself in the wrestling department as well. So I see that the Marcos being a very good underdog on this fight. I mean, it's going to be a close fight. I wouldn't be putting her in all your parlays or nothing like that, but I got my money on Marcos in this fight. And so we were going with another underdog, Antonio Arroyo. We got Marcos. Another good fight I wanted to talk about that I see very good value in it because they got him at a pick'em right now. She may even be a slight underdog, but it's like at a close pick'em. I got my money on Miranda Granger. She's a very impressive fighter. She's like a bulldog, man. That girl doesn't stop. She's amazing in the clinch. She's powerful. She knows how to win control time in her fights. She's going to be good in the scorecards. She's going to have the advantage, and I can also see her putting Yoder away because Yoder's lost and by the way, Granger's, most of her finishes, even before the UFC, were like first rounds, and she's great in the clinch. She does good knees. Like her Muay Thai game is like, she's like a Muay Thai fighter sometimes, and her submission game is good. She's been looking very impressive, and I think she's coming off a loss now. So another one of those, her only loss. She's got only one loss, so she's going to be coming with a chip on her shoulder as well, looking to redeem herself from what just happened. So we should see her at her best. Danger Granger, they call her. So she's going to be at her most dangerous, living up to her nickname. And Yoder has lost, let's see, she's lost, technically, she's only lost 5 out of her last 7, and she doesn't have like a 30 fight record. She's only got like less than double-digit fights, or less than double-digit wins. So her record's not impressive. She's got like the one of her wins, so the only 2 out of 6 or 7 of her last fights that she's won also went to a split decision. So one of the judges scored it against her, said that she lost the fight. So that's not something that you can be impressed by in her victories. So another person I see kind of like fading away, and as opposed to her opponent who's on the incline instead of the decline. So my money's on somebody who's got great value because they're lined up at a pick'em, if not even a slight underdog, Miranda Granger. So that's another good. So this card is going to be paying good dividends, man. This is one of those cards where if you put like $1,000 on this card compared to a card that you put your typical $1,000 on, this money will be returned in way more dividends than your typical card, because most cards you have to side with the favorites who are like minus 500, so you win like $10 per 100, whereas opposed to this card, you're gonna win 100 back for your 100, if not more. Especially on the underdogs, you bet 100 on an underdog, they pay you your 100 back plus more than another 100 on top of it. So you bet 100, you win like 350, as opposed to most cards where you bet 100, you win back your 100 plus only $10 on top of it. this card's got a lot of value. So what we're gonna do is, because we don't gotta, you know, this is something I only would share with my patrons. I'm not gonna get specifics about how we're gonna bet this. That's something that unfortunately I spend a lot of time and wasted a lot of hours to try to master it. So if you're not a patron, unfortunately, you didn't do anything to be deserving of this type of money-making advice and tips that I'll be sharing with them only. So also my bet slips are almost prepared now for my patrons only. They'll be getting my bet slips, my personal bet slips that I use myself at the casino, that have usually, if you look at my Twitter accounts, have paid me back more than 5 or 10 times my money, where I've, like, in the last 2 weeks before this last week, in the last 3 weeks, so let's say the Khabib card and the one before that alone, I put in a total of my own personal money less than $4,000, and I made more than $14,000 in profits. And you can see the tickets I posted before I even before the fight night started. I posted all my tickets, the 1 loser ticket and the 8-9 winning tickets, combined into a total of over $13,000 for one event. And I didn't even put $3,000 into that event in my own money down. So that's over $10,000 in profit per week off my own personal slips. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing for all my patrons. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not even done. We got a couple more fights I want to talk about. But I would like you guys to hit the like and hit the subscribe, please, because the sooner that you guys put me on the map, maybe somebody can see this video that wasn't going to see it, and they can subscribe, and that'll help me get closer to doing this full time for you guys, where I can make the videos longer and put more content and transition from having a 9-to-5 and my other gigs into doing this more for you guys, which will be financially beneficial, not just for myself, but for you guys who are watching as well, who like to put some money on your fights every weekend. All right, back to the fighting now. Sorry about the sidetracking. All right, we're gonna go back into, let's see, what's the next fighter I can talk about here. So we did find some, this is a good night for underdogs. Good night for some value. We got Antonio Arroyo pulling the upset against Eric Anders. I got Kay Hansen versus Corey McKenna. Now McKenna, some would say she's a live dog. She made a transition to alpha male. She's training out of alpha male now with Uriah Faber, Cody Grant, Garbrandt, some pretty good fighters over there out of that side that you used to, you know. But in my opinion, not the greatest camp, and she needs the levels and years of improvements to make if she doesn't get some heavy, serious type of one-on-one personal time put on into improving her ground game, her takedown defense. And that's the key right there. The takedown defense is so bad that the opponent she's got to go against this weekend, Kay Hansen, will expose that. And if the strength and the size and the experience and the power that she's gonna put, if she can get her to the ground, it's not gonna be a good night for this girl. And her striking is not so impressive that it's gonna negate the type of ground game and or ability, the takedown accuracy that Kay Hansen's gonna be coming with. So not the most high level of fight. It's not gonna look very pretty. It's gonna be a very, like, not my most confident money. And I wouldn't, Kay Hansen's not somebody I'm very high on, but when you're putting her against somebody like that, she's gonna look better than she really is. So I would, if I have to pick on this fight, I wouldn't put her in money parlays. I wouldn't put much money on her in a single bet either, especially because there's so many changes that McKenna's made recently that we don't know if she's going to be the same. But she has to be levels beyond where she was last time we saw her for her to be able to beat Kay Hansen. But hey, well, everything's possible. But I'd have to go until I see some changes for myself. I'm going to have to go with Kay Hansen here, and that's why she's the favorite. All right, so we got Miranda Granger taking out Ashley Yoder. We got Rice McGee versus Alex Moreno. This is another similar situation. I mean, I'm not too high on Alex Moreno. He's coming with a pretty decent record, 17-6. His last loss was against Chaos Williams, who will be on this card as well. Who's got some heat, and that's what I was saying. You guys got to be careful. This is one of those. That's one of those fights that you may want to hedge off of Abdul Razak on. If you noticed after the first round, he couldn't put him away. Not only then, Kalen Williams is a very good live dog in that fight. Chaos Williams is nobody to mess around with. You can't blink when you're in a fight with that guy. He's got power. He's got better stamina. But I do see him being put away early just because of the style matchup going right into the hands of Abdul Razak. He's the perfect opponent type of style matchup for him. But Kalen Williams, Chaos Williams, did beat in his last fight. He did beat Alex Moreno very impressively, very quickly in the first round, so that shows that Mocha's chin is not as sturdy as we'd like it to be for putting money on him. And also Rice McKee has a point to prove. His first debut fight was against, he got the lucky draw, the short end of the stick. He fought against Khamzat Chimaev, and he did not do too well. Impressive win by Khamzat. He put him out very quickly in the first round, TKO'd him, and that was his debut fight. So we don't really know what he's really capable of yet. He hasn't really fought much competition, good competition before that fight, so it's difficult to gauge where he'll be at for this fight and what type of improvements he's made since the Khamzat fight, which was not too long ago. So I can't imagine it. From my research, I do see that that Alex Moreno's having a great camp. He's, since his loss, and like sometimes losing will improve a fighter in much better dividends. So I rather sometimes bet on a guy who's coming off of a loss than a guy who's on a 6-7 fight win streak. And there's reasons behind that, because the motivation, the hunger, it brings them back. It's like when Rocky lost and he had to come back and beat Apollo Creed, or not just Apollo Creed, when he lost against what's that guy's name with the Clubber Lang. When he lost against Clubber Lang, he had to come back and make some changes, and he started working on his footwork and stuff. That's what real fighters do as well. I know it's a movie, but the concept is real behind that. When you lose, you come back better than you were before. Anyways, we're gonna now go to the next. So I do got in this fight, until I can see something good out of Rice McKee, I have to be the smarter bet would be Alex Moreno, but don't put him in all of your parlays or bet some heavy chalk. I would just see him as a slight favorite here. And Luis Mocha versus Jose Alberto Quinones. This is gonna be a fun fight. Always, this guy gives us a good show. Luis Mocha is a guy I'm really a fan of. I like the way his fighting is. He's always forward pressure and doesn't move backwards, and he's very good at sprawling and brawling, kind of like a similar style to who we just saw fighting the Lebanese guy Taha on the card. What's his name? Barcelos. He's a very similar version of him, like maybe not as good and skilled or technical, but he's still young, man. The guy like early 20s, so he's young, but he's not green. He's not inexperienced. He's very skilled, and he's very gritty. He's a dog, man. He doesn't back down. He puts a lot of output. He's very good at wrestling. He's got good boxing, keeps his hands up. He knows how to strike. He's very accurate. He's the type, if he gets you on the ground, he'll know how to ground and pound you, so that makes the referee have to stop the fights. He's dangerous. He does good flying knees, and he's good in the clinch, like a Muay Thai fighter as well. He's got very good IQ. I would definitely give this in his favor, and he's paying pretty good. He's not a big favorite, he's just a small favorite. And his opponent's a pretty game opponent. I think it's just a little bit, they're very similar in a lot of senses, but I would give the slight edge to, or more than a slight edge, I would give the edge to the rapidly improving and young dog Luis Mocha, who's got an impressive record as well, 16-7, got some notable wins. His debut fight, if you guys want to just know anything about him, study his debut. For his first fight, he came into the UFC, he fought a killer, a dog, man. The guy was very skilled, very sturdy, very strong, very fast, good wrestler. He was just an all-around, well-rounded fighter. It was a big task for your first fight. He passed those tests with flying colors. It was a scrap for all. It was a very good, very interesting and fun fight to watch, all the way until the third round, where he found a way to ground and pound him and get the TKO win. So very nice debut for him, and I'm surprised he's not a bigger favorite coming into this fight. So another fight that there's value in. All right, now who else do we got? I think that's pretty much it, man. We got it. We went from a full stack card to the next day being a smaller card. So we got our, if anybody has questions, anything, leave it in the comments, or become a patron so we can open the lines of communication. I don't see any other fights. I think that's it. There may be another fight. I don't think it's added on there anymore, but if Molin versus Adeshev, I got Molin on this fight, but no sense in discussing that one if it's not on the card. But if it does turn out to be, I'll put an extra little short video about that fight. But you got Molin on that fight, Jeffrey Molin winning that fight. All right, guys, thank you for your time. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'm going to be coming up with another video about the prop bets. Those prop bets last week made us a killing. If you went in my Patreon, you've seen I posted it before the fights. Almost every single one of my prop bets hit. I think all of them hit. So anyways, we're going to do some prop bets. We're going to do some over-unders. methods of winning video that may only go to my patrons. Once again, I'm not going to be doing too much for the public because I got to find a way to transition from my job to doing this more full time. You know what I mean? It's already costing me a fortune to have to do these videos for you guys every day. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it anyways. And hit the like and subscribe and reminder bells. Also, we're going to be doing the fate of the week, I forgot to mention, and the underdogs of the week, which I kind of already gave them to you guys, but we'll break down those fights and so I can make you more confident on why I went with these underdogs in particular. Thank you guys for your time.